Good morning. Thank you very much for attending headquarters. To announce details on an international child sex abuse investigation are Chief William Blair, Inspector Joanna Bevan Desjardins, Unit Commander of the Sex Crimes Unit, Gerald O'Farrell, Acting Deputy Chief Inspector of the United States Postal Inspection Service, Signe Arneson, Associate Executive Director of CyberTip, Canada Centre for Child Protection. Also, Detective Constable Lisa Belanger of the Child Exploitation Section and Inspector Brian Bone of the United States Postal Inspection Service will be available for questions during this conference. Chief?
Thank you, Wendy, and good morning, everyone. You know, as you look behind me, you will see an incredible array of police uniforms and different agencies represented. And I think one of the most extraordinary things that we will speak to of today is the national and international cooperation among law enforcement to deal with one of the most important challenges facing all of us in our society and certainly in law enforcement. There is no greater responsibility for those of us who have sworn to serve and protect than the protection of our children. And the exploitation of children is a crime for which law enforcement comes together united around the world to do our very best to protect those individuals who can't protect themselves. I am today very honored to introduce Inspector Joanna Bevan, who is the officer in charge of our Child Exploitation Unit, to advise you of the results of an extraordinary investigation and an extraordinary example of international cooperation from law enforcement and our partners in community safety that really makes a difference. Joanna.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to talk about Project Spade this morning. In October 2010, undercover online officers with the Child Exploitation Section of the Toronto Police Service made contact with a male on the internet who was sharing very graphic images of young children being sexually abused. Through investigations, the officers were able to trace the internet connection to a male living in Toronto. The investigation revealed that this individual was running an exploitation movie, production, and distribution company from an address within the city of Toronto. This company operated a website known as www.azoffilms.com, where customers from around the world could place orders to have movies sent to them through the mail or through the internet. Investigators believe many of these movies were consistent with the Canadian Criminal Code definition of child pornography. At this time, the Toronto Police Service sought the assistance of the United States Postal Inspection Service, as it appeared many of the movies were being exported into the United States. The Toronto Police Service and the United States Postal Inspection Service then began a joint investigation. On May 1st, 2011, after a 7-month-long investigation, officers executed numerous search warrants at various locations across the city of Toronto. One of these search warrants was executed at the site of the purported business located in the West End of Toronto. Officers spent 4 days inside this business, cataloging the thousands of movies, computers, and other media located during their search. At this time, over 45 terabytes of information was seized from the business. And to give you some perspective, this is equivalent to a stack of paper as tall as 1,500 CN Towers. On the same date, a search warrant was also executed at the residence of the owner-operator of the business, Mr. Brian Way. It is alleged that officers located hundreds of thousands of images and videos detailing horrific sexual acts against very young children, some of the worst that they have ever viewed. Brian Way, 42 years of age, has been charged with a total of 24 offenses, including numerous child pornography, proceeds of crime offenses, and instructing a criminal organization. We believe this is the first time in Canada that anyone has been charged with being a part of a criminal organization in regards to child pornography. It is alleged that Mr. Way's company had revenues in excess of $4 million during the years he was operating. It is also alleged that Mr. Way paid people to have children filmed in Eastern European countries in order to produce some of the movies that he would sell online. These producers of the child exploitation movies, which were sold exclusively through Azov Films, have all been convicted in their respective countries. With the assistance of the Toronto Police Service's technological tech section, Officers were able to recreate the customer database used by Azov Films to distribute the material around the world. Child exploitation officers, with the assistance from the members of the Ontario Provincial Strategy to Protect Children from Sexual Abuse and Exploitation on the Internet, then spent months analyzing all the seized material, determining who the customers were. Information was then sent through the RCMP's National Child Exploitation Coordination Center and Interpol to over 50 countries. This investigation was dubbed Project Spade, and its success has been extraordinary. To date, the project as a whole has saved 386 children from sexual abuse worldwide. This alone is spectacular. Furthermore, as of this morning, the number has actually gone up. Sweden contacted us and advised us that they arrested 7 more people for this project. So 348 individuals have been arrested worldwide as part of the investigation. They include 50 in Ontario, 58 in the rest of Canada, 76 in the United States, and 164 internationally. Of concern to the investigators was the number of people that had close contact with children. The arrests included 40 school teachers, 9 doctors and nurses, 32 people who volunteered with children, 6 law enforcement personnel, 9 pastors or priests, and 3 foster parents. An example of one of the search warrants that was conducted in Canada, a search warrant was executed at a retired school teacher's residence. He had over 350,000 images and over 9,000 videos of child sexual abuse. Some of these images were of children known to him, and he was also charged with sexually abusing a young child relative. We worked with several international law enforcement agencies during this project: Australian Federal Police, who are here today, Spanish National Police, here today, Special Investigations Unit for the Investigation of Trafficking in Mexico, also here today, Queensland Police Service, Task Force Argos, South African Police Service, Hong Kong Police Service, Norwegian Police Service, Garda, Ireland Police Service, National Police Force of Greece, and Royal Gibraltar Police. The success of this joint project with the United States Postal Inspection Service, along with all our international partners and other agencies you see here today, confirms that when we work together, regardless of the borders that divide us, we can successfully track down those who not only prey on our most vulnerable, but also profit from it. I would like to thank everyone involved and commend them for their hard work and commitment to this project. I would also like to acknowledge cybertip.ca, who is also present with us today. Cybertip.ca is Canada's tip line to report the online sexual exploitation of children. They received numerous tips regarding Mr. Way's website and forwarded them to us, assisting us in detecting his website. Thank you.
So it sounds like this film company that was operating out of Toronto, that was busted in 2011?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's obviously,
It has been shut down.
it's been shut down. How come we're just learning about that now?
It's been an ongoing investigation right across the world, arresting as many people involved with this company, and it's come to a point now where we feel comfortable with putting out before the media. It is still ongoing. There will be further arrests, and I would imagine there will be more children that will be saved because of it.
Okay, so he's been in jail?
He's in jail. He's been there
Not
since.
the trial yet.
Correct.
Sorry, I apologize. Can at this time I have Gerald O'Farrell to the podium? Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the United States Postal Inspection Service, I sincerely thank the Toronto Police Service for the privilege of joining in today's press conference. It's a pleasure to be partnering with the Toronto Police and other global law enforcement counterparts to announce the results of this remarkable 3-year-long investigation. International cooperation is the most effective way to identify, track, and combat those who sexually exploit children who operate without regards to border. In fact, it's essential if we want to stop these crimes. Some of you may not be familiar with us, but postal inspectors are the law enforcement arm of the United States Postal Service. We investigate crimes that involve the United States Postal Service or mail. Postal inspectors have a long history of protecting children from being sexually exploited by child pornographers and pedophiles who use the mail. We also take the same tact in protecting children against sexual exploitation via the internet, crimes that often use the mail as a key component in furthering the victimization of children. The child victims identified in this operation numbered over 300. These 300 children have had their lives altered forever. The images of them become a permanent record of the sexual abuse of a child. In this operation, the victims were all prepubescent, with some as young as 5 years of age. And once child pornography images are posted on the internet, they can continue to circulate forever. The child is re-victimized as the images are viewed again and again. This investigation began in October 2010 when the Toronto Police Service contacted the United States Postal Inspection Service after identifying a company, Azov Films, that was sending child exploitation material which was being delivered through the U.S. mail. Postal inspectors began an investigation into the products sold through the Azov Film website and identified the delivery methods to U.S. customers. The information was provided to the Toronto Police Service, and as you heard Chief Blair and Inspector Bevan say, on May 1st, 2011, this company was shut down. Once the company was shut down, we worked with our Department of Justice to identify U.S. customers and a paper trail of more than $4 million in revenue. Over several months, postal inspectors analyzed databases maintained by Azov Films. The information was then used to initiate law enforcement actions against over 150 Azov Film customers in the United States. The success of this investigation was identifying those that pose an immediate risk to children. Here is a snapshot of what we found. 35 school employees, 25 registered sex offenders, 15 individuals who are law enforcement, federal employees or attorneys, 10 medical personnel, 10 youth volunteers and coaches. The investigations involving these customers span across all segments of society. They include an attorney and youth baseball coach in the state of Washington who pled guilty to producing more than 500 videos of children, all under the age of 16, who he sexually molested. A school employee located in Georgia who pled guilty to receiving child pornography and admitted to placing a hidden video camera in the restrooms that students use in an effort to videotape their genitals. A preschool teacher who pled guilty to producing child pornography while he was employed as a teacher in Japan, with the victims being as young as 5 years old. Lastly, a police sergeant in Texas who pled guilty to producing a video of a child involved in sexually explicit conduct. But the most staggering number was 330. That's the number of child victims that postal inspectors were able to identify and rescue from sexual abuse and exploitation at the hands of offenders. We, the United States Postal Inspection Service, remain committed to strengthening our cross-border partnerships, as well as developing new relationships with law enforcement around the world. This investigation solidified the fact that we all achieve a common goal of protecting children from exploitation when we work together. I commend all the hard work of the Toronto Police Service, our international partners, our federal and state law enforcement partners back in the U.S., the Department of Justice's Child Exploitation and Obscenity Section, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, whose assistance over the span of this investigation was invaluable. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Signe Arneson, and I'm the director of cybertip.ca. I'd like to first thank Chief William Blair for inviting us to participate in today's announcement involving Project Spade. Chief Blair has been a big supporter of our agency and has provided great leadership on this issue. Our organization, the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, operates cybertip.ca, Canada's national tip line for the public to report the online sexual exploitation of children. We would like to acknowledge and applaud the Toronto Police Service's Child Exploitation Section for the important outcomes highlighted within SPADE and their ongoing commitment to identify, rescue, and protect children. The work of all law enforcement agencies within Canada and abroad should be commended today. As a child protection agency, we are grateful for all of the work that you do. This is an important day for Canadian children, as well as children from other countries, and sends a strong message that child sexual abuse will not be tolerated. For over 11 years, cybertip.ca has received reports from Canadians concerned about children being sexually exploited on the internet. And this announcement only serves to underscore the important difference ordinary citizens can make in the fight to reduce child victimization, a fight that no entity in this country nor around the world can wage on their own. We all have a role to play, and reporting does make a difference. And in this one particular policing project, it has made a difference times 386 children and counting. The sobering reality, however, is that we do live in a world with child sex offenders. The necessary and important work of law enforcement in identifying offenders will continue far beyond today's announcement. The arrest of individuals whose professions or volunteer work provided them with close contact with children, teachers, doctors, priests, coaches, and others, should in fact be a wake-up call to all Canadians. We need to do a better job of creating safer environments for children and implement policies that holds adults to a higher standard of conduct when interacting with children in their care. We are not powerless. It is in our control. So today we are asking for more to be done. We are asking that all our organizations that serve children carefully examine if they could in fact be doing more to prevent child sexual abuse. To this end, our agency created the Commit to Kids program. Commit to Kids provides a step-by-step plan to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse within child-serving organizations. It helps organizations identify appropriate boundaries between adults and children for the purpose of creating safe and respectful environments. Helps develop policies and procedures and useful tools such as child-centered codes of conduct. We know that most offenders do not have criminal records, so the days of relying upon this as some standard of measure that children are going to be better protected needs to change. In closing, we thank our police partners for their exceptional work, and perhaps most importantly, we encourage all Canadians to take action and learn more about ways they can better protect children around them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will take questions. Answers, please come to the podium to Ms. Wong.
Inspector, you mentioned that the videos that were allegedly being produced by this Toronto company seem to be in line with the Canadian definition of child pornography. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what kind of images these were? I mean, we would assume that with the child porn charges, but given that you pointed it out, I assume that was it sort of borderline? Do you think that some of the people who were getting these movies maybe didn't consider it child sexual abuse images? Just tell us a little bit more about what these movies were.
They were clearly child pornography. Clearly children being sexually abused and or exploited.
So people who were buying these movies knew exactly
Correct.
what they were doing?
Yes.
Could you clarify that, because the company promoted itself as selling what it called naturalist movies, but you said that actually some of these clips depict explicit sexual acts?
Yes, I didn't say that. I think you may have got that from somewhere else. However, the pictures and videos that we have been investigating are definitely child pornography as defined under the criminal code, meaning that it's children being sexually exploited, pictures being taken for a sexual purpose.
Which does not mean necessarily a sexual act.
No, not always a sexual act for a sexual purpose.
And also, could you clarify, you gave a breakdown of how many were teachers and people in positions of authority. Is that for the Canadian suspects or for the whole set of international suspects?
That's for, the numbers I gave you were for Canadian.
How long was this company, in business for? How many years?
We believe it was in business since approximately 2005.
How many people from that company were arrested?
Right now, there's one other before the courts.
How did it come onto your radar in 2010? Did you receive tips about this company before? I mean, in the 5 years prior to?
We had received some information back in 2005, and at that time, it was investigated and no charges were deemed to be appropriate at that time.
Are you alleging that the types of movies movies and pictures that were being produced changed over those 5 years?
I would say allegedly, yes, they have.
So it's this Brian Way, that's his name?
Correct.
Is he suspected to be sort of the ringleader of this entire organization, or?
We believe he's been charged as, under criminal organization, as the one that's instructing the criminal group, so we believe he's the owner-operator.
But he was sort of gathering images from other people, because there was, I believe the U.S. Inspection Agency was talking about clandestine methods used to gather this video. So is it sort of like he, so to speak, kind of contracted out?
He was a
others to get-
distributor,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he would get the product coming to him, and then he would distribute it. So it's been alleged that he had videographers and other people in other countries creating these videos of child pornography, and he would then distribute it from his company.
So he would hire people.
Correct.
What does it mean exactly? Can you elaborate on the children rescued? I mean, are we talking about children being taken out of homes or film studios? What does that mean that they were rescued?
They were removed from the situation of the sexual abuse.
So this started with this Toronto man who was running this company, and it seems to have spread globally. Can you just give us a sense of the scope of this in terms of, is this a first for a kind of investigation of this size?
It's a first for the magnitude, one, of the victims saved. That to us is the paramount result that we want. That's a first for us. The amount of arrests across internationally, also a first. It won't be the last by any means. We have such great partnerships with all the law enforcement here that this is just the beginning of these types of investigations of this magnitude.
And can all the people who have been arrested, are they all linked in some way to this Toronto man?
Yes.
How many people were arrested in Toronto?
In Toronto, there was 50 in Ontario and 58 in the rest of Canada. I don't have the breakdown for Toronto in front of me right now.
Victims were as young as 5 years old. What was the age range, and were a majority of them from Eastern Europe? Is that what you said, or?
All over the world, all over the world. The age range, mainly on the website, there was pictures of boys, and the age range was anywhere from 5 to 12 years.
And you did mention there were a few cases where the people who have been arrested or who were involved knew the victims. Was that also a majority of it, or were there a lot of people who did not know the victims who were being exploited?
I can't say it was the majority, but it was an investigation that surprised our officers on how many hands-on, meaning how many actual people that were arrested actually also sexually abused.
Where were these videos taken, in all different scenes, scenarios?
There was, the ones that were being produced through it, they were taken in the Ukraine and Romania, some of them.
In basements, in a studio, what kind of schools, doctor's offices?
I don't have that. Come on up, please. This is Lisa Belanger. She's the officer in charge of the case. She's been following it for the last few years. It's a fantastic job.
Maybe just tell us how these videos were made, where they were shot.
So the videos that were exclusively, we're alleging were exclusively sold by Azov Films were produced in primarily Romania and the Ukraine. They were filmed in, people's apartments, in dingy saunas. Sometimes they set up in backyards where the fences are all closed in. So situations like that.
Is it fair to say that some of those arrested are related to these children?
No.
So parents
So
had no
parents,
idea.
uncles?
Oh, you mean the investigations in Romania and Ukraine?
Filming, are they related, are we alleging that they're related to the children at all?
No, they're not related.
You
Of
said,
the arrests, how many are people who viewed and downloaded these images, and how many people were actually involved in their production?
So, I mean, there's the two things going on. There's the material coming in to Canada and being sold. And then there's the customers buying the material. So today what we wanted to tell everyone about was sort of that customer side, that the customers that purchase these films and that investigation. So they're quite separate.
You said one other person connected to the company has been arrested. Are you talking
Yes.
about Sandra Westons, or are you talking about the German videographer?
I'm talking about, sorry, Brandon Donnelly.
So Sandra Westons is still at large?
She's still at large, correct?
Is she involved with the Toronto company?
She's charged in the conspiracy, the organized crime.
Or she's wanted in the complaint, she's still out there?
Sorry, yes, sorry, she's named in the criminal organization charge. She's the mother of the accused.
What kind of reputation does, or did Azov Films have on the world child pornography stage, are you alleging? Was this known as a go-to place for people around the world? Was it a very popular site? Can you just kind of give us a sense of the overall reputation amongst this underworld?
It was well known to sexual predators, especially sexual predators that like young boys. They made in excess of $4 million. That can tell you right there how popular it was. And it also obviously had an international base to it.
So how much were they charging? Do you buy images by the movie, by the picture, how does it work? Because we hear a lot about people, child pornographers trading images, like I'll give you this if you give me that. How did the financial transaction allegedly work?
What you said, you can buy the pictures and you can also buy movies.
And what were the prices that we were looking at?
The price ranges? Do you have a range of prices?
If you could step up, sorry.
For an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half video, they were charging upwards to $35, $45. Photo sets might be a bit less, depending if they also bought the video.
So this is alarming that over $4 million was made by people wanting to purchase child pornography. Can you just speak to how alarming that is?
It's alarming. And this is just one company that we've been able to stop from doing this. There are many other predators out there trying to get into the same businesses, in the same businesses. We're just fortunate that we've saved this many children, but there's many more out there that we need to find.
In terms of the reach of this company, obviously it seems like it was incredibly large, you say well-known, $4 million in revenue. Are there many others that are operating as successfully or at this scale, or would this be the largest?
I can't comment on that right now, but I can tell you that this is the largest that the Toronto Police has dealt with at this point.
People that may view this material may think they have sort of an uncommon but harmless taste in this. But am I right to assume that it's their interest and downloading of this that fuels the exploitation of the children? Do you have a message for people who might be interested in this stuff?
Absolutely. It's we've switched from doing things through the mail. Predators used to send the movies through the mail, and we would intercept them more easily. Now we've gone underground with the internet, and all these people with the same sexual desires, predators, they can get together, basically unknown, in a covert way. So yes, we're working harder. We're getting better. We have officers trained all around the world that are attacking these. We have the provincial strategy, which has officers all across Ontario that are trained to the same levels, searching and seeking, being more proactive, but by any means, we haven't, this is just the tip.
The officers are trained, obviously, to do this. This is your job. But what's it like, even just on a personal level, to sit through thousands of hours of this shocking and disturbing video?
It's anyone that you've spoken to that works in this area, it becomes a passion because they're horrific. The first clip that you have ever seen never leaves your mind. So we watch our officers very carefully, as do all the other services, to make sure that their health and wellness is number one. But like Lisa, dealing with a case like this for 3 years, seeing the videos, seeing the children that are actually being saved, it's gratifying to the fact knowing that what you're doing is actually making a difference. However, it's emotionally, it can wear you down. It's a lot of work.
How do you deal with that magnitude of data? Where is it now? Is it being stored and stored safely? And how did you begin to sit through it?
Well, that's a good question. It's a challenge. Every investigation we get into is bigger. You know, 1,500 CN towers, imagine. That's not going to be our smallest by any means. They're talking about petabytes now, which I can't imagine what that is. We try to keep up. You know, with IT, we have other services that help. And the government, you know, with the provincial strategy, they will come in and help us out that way as well. But we just try and keep our officers the best trained, and it all comes down to education. We have to educate the government. We have to educate the citizens of Toronto that, you know, the money needs to be spent on IT so we can actually keep up with the criminal activity.
Stored for the future, for future cases, for residents?
Detective Constable Belanche, if you could just step to the microphone. Your inspector was just talking about the passion that officers like you have for these children. Can you just tell us, I mean, what it means for you on a personal level? What, like, I guess the connection that you create with these children who you've never met, but, you know, you're trying to save people that are sometimes on the other side of the world. Just tell us on a personal level what this investigation has meant to you.
I think what was gratifying was that, you know, when I did reach out to these other countries, we were all on the same page that the material that was being produced in Romania and Ukraine was not acceptable there either, and that you know, those sort of voiceless children that we would see for the past 4 years from, you know, Eastern European countries, we actually had information now about their lives and about how that material was produced. So this project was amazing for that, because we learned so much about how all this material got produced.
And to know that some of those children have been saved?
Yes, well, we know that they're not filming for Azov Films anymore. We can't really report on to what they're doing right now. We don't have the same sort of control on that information, but it is very satisfying.
Detective Constable.
Yes.
So many different forces working together from around the world on this obviously is going to help in future investigations. It's going to help reverse engineer and just feed into the ability of officers everywhere to make more of these arrests. But is this going to help in sort of advancing, raising the bar for legal threshold when it comes to prosecuting these people? And how's that going to work with foreigners too? Because laws in different countries, it's all it changes. Maybe prosecuting these people here, but those in different countries that have lighter laws.
Yeah, that's a very complicated question. There's a lot of layers to that question. It's definitely evolving, the law. And from Canada's point of view, we've had guilty pleas already for this material, as well as in the US. And more than any other type of law enforcement, we're a very tight-knit community. I mean, I Skyped with officers from all over the world during this project and communicated with them all, and we meet in person and in conferences, and we really try and be on the same page. So a project like this definitely will bring those issues. You know, different countries do have different approaches to this material, for sure.
Detective, you said that this material, you discovered that it's not acceptable in Romania or Ukraine anyway. Why is all of it being produced there then? Or was that just where this particular investigation led you? Is this stuff being produced in Canada as well?
No. No.
So none of the children saved are from Canada?
No, there's two different things, right? So you have material being produced and sold. The customers that were arrested, those are the ones that, you know, the victim number we gave today, that's where those came from. So they were investigated because of their purchases, and as a result of our investigation, we discovered children being abused and being used for further exploitation and filming.
Were any of those children Canadian?
Yes.
How many Canadian children were rescued through this?
Where was that one? I think Canada's 24.
24 children?
Yes.
Do you know their ages?
No. Many officers that are here today are from those cities and provinces that arrested those customers, so that's why they're all here today. So hopefully they can help you with those types of questions.
Sorry, you say customers, but the
Yeah.
children who were filmed, they were all from Eastern Europe?
Yes, the children that were filmed And the films that were sold were from there, but the victims that we were referring to today are completely separate to those.
So as a
children.
result of the Azov Films
Yes.
investigation, you found caches of child pornography on different computers of people that had purchased films from Azov Films.
Exactly.
But some of those images were of children who were abused in Canada that were not purchased from Azov Films.
Exactly. Yes.
So
So they're not part of the 386 then?
The Azov children, no.
The Canadian children.
The Canadian?
Yes, they are.
The 386 is all of the children that were saved, including possibly children involved in Azov Films and children who were filmed in Canada, the United States, everywhere else by child pornographers allegedly who were also buying stuff through Azov Films.
So basically, the consumer purchased stuff off from this company, but the consumer also had their own collections. And from those collections, they also had pictures of children
Yes.
that were known to them that they had abused or had been abused that we were able to identify and remove
This
from
one
the-
investigation that started with Azov Films or the West Toronto Company led you in all these other different directions to all these different children in different circumstances.
Okay, but
And
there
right.
were, but you have found images or you have rescued Canadian children?
Yes.
24.
24,
And
yes.
is the
Any
new
from
number
Toronto?
of arrests 348, you said you heard this morning from Sweden?
Yes, once we disseminate the information, it's not always easy to control the information coming back to us. So yeah, today I received those numbers from Sweden.
So 348 is the new arrest?
Yes.
And the arrows that we're seeing on the map here says lead sent to over 50 countries. Is that stuff, information that Toronto police sent to all the different places around the world about kids who are being abused, or is that stuff is that images that were sent from Toronto around the world by us?
So the the RCMP assisted us greatly in compiling the information and disseminating them in terms of the customers of Azov Film. So each country chose their own methods of investigating those
But
customers
so that's information that was sent by Toronto area police agencies to police agencies?
via RCMP and Interpol. Yes. Yeah.
Is there anyone arrested where their only crime or their only crime is buying the
Yes. Yes.
About how many?
I can't. I wouldn't know the number. It all depends on the information we get back.
And did that go far back to 2005? Doesn't have a report on that one?
I don't think we would be able to go that far back.
Okay, thank you very much. This concludes our conference. The members you see